Woo! Well, wasn't that an evening of NHL playoff hockey? Welcome back to Game Over Edmonton. It's your boys, Avry and Zach here, as we turn back to Edmonton, all squared at 2 games apiece as the Oilers knock off the LA Kings in overtime, 5-4. Zach and myself are going to have all the breakdown. We're going to get into everything in the game. We're going to get into your comments, your complaints, your concerns, your thoughts on every bit of that game. But first, a word from my friends at Sports Interaction. Get in on the action and make your bet with Sports Interaction. Every hit, every shot, every goal. From all your favorite teams and players. With competitive odds, the best live in-play, and more ways than ever to get into the game. Like Minute Madness, or our exclusive game with so many opportunities to win by the minute. Download the app in Ontario. You can use the QR code you see at the bottom of your screen, or head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN to get started. 19 plus, and please play responsibly. All right, with that out of the way, like I said last time, Zach, how's your heart rate, buddy?
I am absolutely jacked. When the Edmonton Oilers go to overtime, I have it. I need to have it just in the back of my mind. I'm like, okay, you're going back to LA down 3-1 just for the sake of the show. Because with the if I allow myself to believe and then I get hurt and then when we come on this show, I just can't think. My heart, I just feel depressed. I feel like my girlfriend just broke up with me. I just feel horrible, right? But the whole game, this whole game, I just didn't allow myself to believe. After that third period, I was restrained. I was already thinking about the offseason. I was physically and emotionally depressed. And the fight and the resilience and the absolute attitude and the pounding that the Oilers put on the Kings, their character came to the forefront. The best players in the world showed up, and they beat the Los Angeles Kings. They did to the Kings this game what the Kings did to the Oilers in Game 1 and Game 3. This is probably the Oilers' worst game of the series if you look at the way they played through Games 1, 2, and 3. And the Oilers come away with the victory. How disheartening is that? Now the Kings have to get on a plane back to Edmonton and sit there and mope and know that they blew a 3-goal lead. They had, and I want to also credit Wisecout, remind me, but they had Jack Campbell in net, who this season has been an emotional roller coaster. The entire province of Alberta was so down on him, and he comes in net. I'm sorry, I had no belief. I was so down, and I want to credit one guy in our chat who last game said Jack's got to go in. Jack can do it, because when he went in, that's immediately who I thought of, and Jack fucking did it. He got the overtime win. He made the saves and he had to. I don't even know where to start when you talk about this game. I think we need to cool down because oh my god, you could bottle my blood and sell it to like crack addicts. Like there's so much adrenaline right now. I don't know where to start. But I think, Avery, the best place to start with us is we go back, we look at before the game, right? Mm-hmm. We're sitting here. I'm in Calgary. You're in Edmonton. You hear Kevin Fiala is going to be in the lineup for the LA Kings. What's your immediate thoughts?
Immediate thoughts are crap. Like that's my immediate thought. Like him into the lineup is such a boost for the Kings, and we know that he had such a boost for them. And we saw him get into the play in this first period. We saw him have a major impact immediately. So I was thinking to myself, this is going to be a even harder job than already is for the Oilers. You're already down the series. They bring back one of their top forwards. That's been a big piece of his cog all year long. So my thinking was, great. This is going to be possibly a game Edmonton gets absolutely sheltered. They don't show up in. But you know what? We saw this team. The first period wasn't great. We know the first period was garbage. But I would give the credit in the world. The response in the second period, Zach, that is how you have to respond with potentially your season on the line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thought they were dead in the water after the first. I was depressed. Words cannot describe the emotional pit that I was feeling when Kopitar scored that goal. And I didn't even think it was Stu's fault. So when we saw that Jay Woodcroft made the decision to go with Jack Campbell in the second period, I, at first, did not like it. What a move. That is one of those risky moves that either could sink you or make you fly. And what a momentum changer. And I'm sure we'll get into this whole goaltending talk a little bit more in depth a little bit later in the show. But we have got a ton of stuff to talk about: the lead changes, the goal scorers themselves, because some guys who were absent early on in the season made their presence felt, and felt in very important ways, with Evander Kane scoring the goal to tie it, and Zach Hyman obviously winning in overtime. We had 70 people watching right now. Guys, we only got 15 likes. Smash that like button for both of us. One other thing I want to add before this before the stream ends, we are raising money for the Alphabet Sports Collective throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Alphabet Sports Collective creates a safe and inclusive environment in hockey for all folks, for folks of all sexual identities and gender expressions, through education, community building, and mobilization. You can donate to the Alphabet Sports Collective in the link below, and the link that you guys see floating in chat. So yeah, with that all being said, hit that like button. What's our like goal today? What was the final score? 5-4. Let's just make it. This is gonna be a jacked up broadcast. I know there's gonna be a ton of people watching it after. Let's say 154 likes for the 5-4 overtime win.
Let's get it.
Exactly. So tomorrow when I check back, let's see that. Dark Fighters in chat. Skinner 727, Campbell 964. And you know what? The goals that were scored on Stu early on, was there anyone that you looked and you're like, you gotta have that one, man. You gotta have that one. Because for me, I don't think there was. Maybe the 5-hole goal by Arvidsson, maybe, but that's one of those, like, you got to credit the good shot. I think Desharnais played that really weak, and I was very frustrated with Vincent Desharnais, to say the least, after the 3-0 goal. But yeah, man, I'm just gonna pass it off to you because I've been rambling like I'm on speed. So I just need to So yeah, let me ask you, what did you think of that Oilers first period? What were your thoughts going into it? After, how do you think they played? And yeah, what were your thoughts for the first?
Yeah, the first period, I just thought they came out just so flat. And that's the thing I mentioned off the top here. When you see his potential on the line, you have to get a split in Los Angeles, taking back to the road 2-2. They weren't getting enough quality shots. You mentioned Vincent Desharnais. He struggled badly. And, I like the guy. I think he's a great personality. I like his play in regular season. But it showed, once again, a guy who hasn't played many playoff games, getting lost out there a variety of times. And that was a major problem. But for me, the response in the second period, where you saw Nugent-Hopkins, Bouchard, Draisaitl take over, like, there are certain players in the league who say, you know what, I'm not losing. Leon Draisaitl is one of those players in which, if he's going to decide to win, his team is going to win. The response he had in the second period was the stuff of a leader right there.
This Leon is one of those players that, now, I don't want to say that he doesn't get enough credit, because, again, I think within this market, every single person loves Leon Draisaitl. There's a ton of people who, if you ask them their favorite player on the Edmonton Oilers, they would just say it's Leon Draisaitl. Everyone loves Leon Draisaitl. If you ask a lot of people who watch the 80s Oilers, they're before my time, before your time, there's a lot, if you've noticed, there's a lot of people who say, you ask them, what was your favorite Oiler? They all say Mark Messier. Like, obviously everyone loves Wayne Gretzky, but there's something about Mark Messier. There's something about Leon Draisaitl, just that leadership, that domination in the time that matters most. And Leon Draisaitl, when the Edmonton Oilers need him, he shows up. Yes, Connor McDavid is the most explosive, most well-rounded, most balanced, most dominant hockey player who's ever played the game, most evolved hockey player, as Bob Stauffer likes to say. But Leon Draisaitl has this ability to take the team in moments that there's no one else. When it looks like your back's against the wall, when you're down by a goal with a minute left to go in the third, and in overtime, when you need him most, he always shows up. It doesn't matter. People call him lazy. People say he skates weird. People say he's slow. People say he doesn't care. He doesn't forecheck. He doesn't backcheck. But that doesn't matter, because every single time the Oilers have needed him, he has shown up, and he has made, not just shown up, but he's made his presence felt. He has been a nightmare for the LA Kings in this series. An absolute nightmare. They're overloading McDavid. They're playing McDavid like it's the NBA Finals, and you got Fred VanVleet running a box and one on Steph Curry, right? Like, they're just overloading McDavid. And frankly, the Oilers' other top 6 members have not been able to carry the flag. Coming into this game, there was a big criticism of Evander Kane. Done nothing. Zach Hyman looked like he couldn't stick handle the puck. And even in up until the third period, I was still a little frustrated, to be honest with you, with Zach Hyman. I thought I've been so impressed with the bottom six, but then beyond Hyman, you had Nugent-Hopkins and then Yamamoto, who I noticed on Twitter from the mainstream guys was starting to get a little bit of flack, and just in terms of like how is he still getting a regular shift, because Yamo wasn't hitting the net. He isn't able to bring the puck to the middle. He kind of is a big perimeter player. I said this to Robert before the show, but he's kind of our Alex Kerfoot, you know what I mean? Just like he has the skills, but like what do you actually do here kind of thing. What a momentum changer. The way in which they won this game, the domination, the never say die attitude, this team, man, just when you think they're out, just when the Kings exploit them, like beyond Vincent Desharnais. Sorry, I want to just say what's up.
No worries, Zach.
One thing we should do before we go and say what's up in chat. To MGD, Adam Firebear, Travis Saunter, of course, Wise Kyle, our Jack Campbell supporter from day one, MGD, David W. I don't recognize Dan Nasham, so we'll get to your question in a bit. Eric Tanner, all the regulars are here. I love seeing you guys. It's so funny to look at the difference in chat when the Oilers win versus when they lose in the playoffs, because we get all of Southern California seems to join our chat, and it's just insane. So yeah, let's. I think we should walk through the first three goals that the Kings scored and just kind of point out just kind of figure out what happened and just analyze them a little bit, because I think one of the big frustrations in the fan base is you watching that 1-0 goal early. It was that third line for LA. It was that Velarde, that Iafallo, and brand new in the lineup, Kevin Fiala. Matchup nightmare for the Edmonton Oilers. That third line for LA can dominate. And when they're on their game, they are really, really tough line to stop. They're all really skilled. They're all really shifty. They're all really strong defensive players. So when I saw that, just like you, when you said, "Oh crap," when Kevin Fiala was in the lineup, my heart was pounding. I was not excited. But yeah, so that first goal, you have, I think it was Gabe Velarde, or one of Alex Iafallo, Gabe Velarde, completely outmuscles Vincent Desharnais. It was on with Darnell Nurse. Nurse kind of, I think, had a little brain fart on the other side, and Velarde ends up scoring. It's 1-0. And then it just kind of started crumbling down after that, right? You have Vinny completely walked by Arvidsson, snatched his soul there, left him in the shadow realm, walks in, scores 5-hole on Stu, not the best goal by any means. And then on the 3-0 goal, you're Cody Ceci right after the 2-0 goal to complete that momentum. It was just crashing and burning. Everything that was going wrong could go wrong, went wrong. Cody Ceci takes a stupid holding call on Kevin Fiala, and on the penalty kill, there's a mishap between Desharnais and Darnell Nurse. They lose their guy in front. Kopitar walks in alone, backhands on Skinner, right? So yeah, we had to go through all those goals because that killed me. I was like, game, series, match, it's a wrap, it's over. Going into the second, Jay Woodcroft goes to put in Jack Campbell. What did you believe the Oilers could come back? Did you like the Campbell move? Tell me where your head was at.
First of all, I didn't really think there was too much to blame Stuart Skinner on. Like you mentioned earlier, Zach, they weren't really goals. Like, you got to have those. I'm not going to put a ton of blame on him. It was really more defensive mishaps in front of him that led to these goals. When I saw Campbell in, I figured, in my head, thinking, Woodcroft must think this is going to change momentum to an extent. He doesn't want to see Skinner getting shelled, because at that point in time, even though it wasn't his fault, it wasn't going well for Stuart Skinner. It was effective right there and then. So I see what Woodcroft was trying to think. Just throw something different at LA. Try to do something. And full credit Jack Campbell. He did make the saves when he had to. He did step up when called upon. Even though, yes, he did let in that one goal to make it a 4-3 game. But for the most part, he did make enough saves to keep Edmonton in this game, because LA had their chances to extend that lead. They did have their chances, Zach.
Yeah, absolutely they did. They definitely did. And but the thing is, just like LA had their chances early on, right? Cody Ceci hits a post. Connor McDavid hits a post in a power play. The Oilers had their chances. I think Corpus, not only did the refs and the penalties in prior games kind of get into their head, I think Korpisalo started to get into their head, right? It seemed like they were holding on to pucks too long. When they started hitting posts, you saw that frustration just exponentially increase, right? And they just looked stuck. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to beat the LA defense, never mind how they were going to beat Korpisalo, because he was outstanding, and he's been outstanding in every single game. So to come in, you get an early power play in the second period. Evan Bouchard the monster. Like, what? Like, I know that you knew. I know that, like, myself knew. Dennis knew. I knew that there was a segment of Oilers fans who always had the belief in Evan Bouchard. But Evan Bouchard is making himself known to the hockey world as a number one defenseman. Nothing more. He is so dominant offensively. It's my belief he's the best shot on the Edmonton Oilers. He picks corners with ease at like 95 miles an hour. He can take your head off. He's so accurate, and he's the guy who gets the Oilers back in the game. You get the assist from Draisaitl and McDavid, and then within 4 minutes, 5-on-5, the hero shows up. The guy who puts the team on his back, Leon Draisaitl from Connor McDavid and Zach Hyman, right in front of the net, lifts it straight up over Korpisalo. Beautiful goal. Nothing he could do. Like, do you blame Korpisalo for any of these goals?
No, not at all. I mean, those are great shots from Draisaitl and then Bouchard again. Remember, it's infuriating to see how much Dave Tippett didn't play Evan Bouchard, didn't trust him as his main D-man at the point to run the PP. It's like, dude, why are you holding back Evan Bouchard? Like you said, Zach, the whole hockey world is now seeing what Bouchard can do and how dynamic he is as a guy who can play that point so effectively.
Yeah, absolutely. That Tyson Barrie signing back in 1920, it was good for 1 year, but when they brought him back, that just messed up a lot of the Evan Bouchard development that could have been had in that bubble season. But nevertheless, there was a good point that I saw in chat by Eno Chap. He said the Oilers are trying too hard to go upstairs on Corpy. Go and get those greasy goals. Now, I think it's funny because every goal that the Oilers score, it does seem like you think back to the last game, you have the 2 McDavid goals in the power play. It's kind of right up in the exact same spot over Korpisalo. Early on, you have Draisaitl right up over Korpisalo. The overtime winner by Hyman right up over Korpisalo. I think that's the game plan. Whatever Dustin Schwartz saw, that's what he kind of circled. Like, those are Korpisalo's weaknesses, and the Oilers are clearly trying to exploit it. Now, they haven't done such a good job so far, but it's really interesting because I also think, to your point about those greasy goals, I think that's one of the ways that we haven't seen a player like Zach Hyman be really effective in the series, because Zach Hyman, in the regular season, had 8 goals called back, right? He's always in the crease. Yes. He's always crashing and banging, and to have someone like that not be making an impact in the crease, I think that was one of the reasons why he was hurting the Oilers' offense, right?
No, of course, totally. You mentioned the greasy goals. I wrote for the Hockey News how Korpisalo in Game 1 made 10 of 11 high danger chance saves. And in Game 2, I think what I wrote, he made 11 of 13 high danger chance saves. I mean, credit to him. In the high danger zone, he's good at making those saves. But you have to keep getting in his grill. You have to keep getting in those areas and making life work. You can't keep the game on the perimeter. And you have to get in there eventually. You can't play in a perimeter game going forward now. You have to get in there more often.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Hyman, even again, like I said before, going into overtime, I still I was like, come on, we need more from Zach Hyman. I know Evander Kane was hurting going into the game, but like Hyman had 83, 84 points this season in 77 games. Like, it was really nerve-wracking. And then one of the adjustments that Jay Woodcroft made is with 11 minutes left to go, it seemed like after the 3-0 goal, Desharnais was still getting regular shifts with Kulak. But once the Oilers tied it 3-2, or got it within 3-2, Desharnais did not see the ice again. Did you like the adjustment by Jay Woodcroft to go to Philip Broberg on the right side with Brett Kulak?
They had to. I see got a few comments here praising Broberg's play, and they had to go to Broberg because, again, I mentioned it off the top here, Zach. Desharnais, you can tell the moment. I guess I would say the lights were a bit too bright. You can see him struggling out there. Great adjustment. Philip Broberg had a heck of a game, and Brett Kulak, who doesn't get enough credit for how he's played so far, those two setting things down on the back end when it looked like you were going to have another disaster on the back end from Desharnais, who had a hard time just figuring out where he really was on the ice, because you couldn't have another King getting in behind him, or we saw the Matt Roy goal. Matt Roy goal, we saw the mishap on defensive. Like, you can't have that happen again.
Absolutely.
But it's like, Broberg and Kulak, putting those two together, great choice by Jamie Croft.
Absolutely. I thought this was Kulak's best game by far of the series. It looked like he was everywhere. He was joining the rush. He was taking shots. He was skating. It looked like he was moving his legs faster. He just was everywhere. I thought Brett Kulak was phenomenal. And the thing about Philip Broberg on his right side, so in that 9 minutes and 48 seconds of 5-on-5 ice time that Philip Broberg played, the Corsi 4 events were 14-4, and the LA Kings only got 4 in against, right? So he controlled 77% of the Corsi while he was on the ice. If you look at just the shots themselves, 6 shots for the Oilers, only 2 shots for the Kings against in those 10 minutes when Broberg was on the ice. I think Broberg's speed and his ability to move the puck and the way he can transition it himself, he doesn't have to rely on his passing. Like you saw mishaps of Desharnais. It wasn't necessarily tonight, but earlier on in the series, Desharnais had a turnover in the neutral zone where he was trying to skate the puck up himself, right?
Yes.
You put Philip Broberg in that situation, who can skate significantly better than Vincent Desharnais. It's a different play. He doesn't make that same turnover, right? I think against the way the Kings are playing, and now that they are playing an even more aggressive style, I think Philip Broberg is a much better option. Like you said, I asked you during the game, would you go to 12-6, or would you continue to go 11-7? Would you send Desharnais to the press box, or would you keep him in for next game?
Oh man, I do think you should go 11-7 for a line matching in life in general. It works much better for Jay Woodcroft. That's been his bread and butter. So if you do have to send Vinny to the press box for the game 5, I would do it. But 11-7 in general, we've seen it's like night and day when Jay runs 11-7 and 12-6. It's line matchup hell for opposing teams, especially LA when he goes that. And I don't know why you would deviate and not go back 12-6 right now, Zach.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you. I think the thing is, I would stay. When I talked to you earlier, you convinced me. I would go 11-7, but I would flip the roles that Desharnais and Broberg have been playing prior. I would use Desharnais almost as a penalty kill specialist, right? You get him out there for his reach, his physicality, the way he can block a shot or two, but 5-on-5, when you need to speed and you need to break that 1-3-1, you get Broberg out there with Kulak, because I thought they excelled tonight. And obviously, because they are the third pair, you can still shelter them. The one guy who I know the Oilers won tonight, and you do hope does smarten up, is Darnell Nurse, because I know we're not at that goal yet, because we haven't mentioned that on the power play again late in the third period, kind of similar to how the Kings killed the Oilers early on with those late goals. The Oilers just couldn't shut it down for the last 30 seconds. Leon Draisaitl once again on the power play with like 30 seconds left kills the Kings, tie game going into the third. It's a brand new game. Jack Campbell's in net, and you have 20 minutes again to save your season. So yeah, I cannot say that I wasn't nervous at all. It was wild game. One thing that we noticed this game, was a significant one here, and I'll ask you this. There was a significant emphasis by Jay Woodcroft to put Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl together at 5-on-5. What did you think of that adjustment by the coach?
You know what? At certain times, I would say putting McDry and Connor together, it's a good old-fashioned bring case of emergency. And that situation, you need a goal. You have to get those two together. And certain times calls for, of course, you don't want to run McDavid and Dry all game long in the same line, but in certain situations, 5-on-5, go ahead and do it. That is a hard line to stop. But having both those guys on the ice, you can stop those guys on separate lines. But when they're both on the ice together, it's really, do we focus on McDavid or Draisaitl? You can't stop both. It's actually impossible.
Well, you saw 5-on-5. They burnt the Kings a number of times. I believe they were on the ice for the overtime game winner. Honestly, my vision was so foggy when Hyman scored. I shut off the TV, immediately ran in here and started getting the broadcast going. So I believe they were, but I know 5-on-5 for the second goal at least. McDavid was on the ice. So together they were making an impact, and it was funny because Todd McClellan, I guess, chose to give Kopitar that matchup with McDry. And the funny thing is, yes, I think that matchup does, you are taking away the Kings' best center and making them focus solely on defensive efforts. But the other thing that the way the Kings benefit from that is, and this matchup I don't like for the Oilers, is you have your secondary top 6 guys. You have your Nuge Kane Hyman, your Nuge Yamo Hyman, whoever you decide to throw out, up against the Deneau line. And they were tilting the ace against McDavid early on in the series. So when I saw them out against Nuge, especially Nuge, who hasn't really played center for the last 60 games, made me a little nervous, to say the least. I don't know if I like that. I think that's something you can kind of get away from once you go back home, and you are going back home for game 5, tied, mind blown. But it's so crazy to me that they actually won this game. The fact they pulled this off, this is the stuff of magic. This is the turning point in a series. And just like this game, there were multiple in the third period. There were multiple things that could have been the turning point. Early on in the third, Darnell Nurse goes to throw a hit, takes himself completely out of the play, leaves his partner back. I can't even remember who it was to handle a 2-on-1. Matt Roy, the defenseman, rushes in, kind of tucks it behind back Campbell. It was a nice goal. Obviously, you can't blame Campbell on that. To that point, Campbell had been playing phenomenal. When the Kings went back up 4-3 after there was a rally to tie the game at 3, what were your thoughts?
I was watching that play and I was wondering, like, why is Darnell setting up to throw the hit in that situation? Stay back with Roy coming up. Like, that was a, I mean, if the hit is thrown and you separate Matt from the puck, it's a gamble. It's a risk reward play. And Darnell gambled badly on that. It didn't work out. But in that situation there in a tie game, you can't take a risk like that. You have to play it safe.
Absolutely.
You can't get risky like that, and Darnell did. And you know what? I hope Darnell shakes the one off, but
I think he
that
will.
was
They
like, yeah.
They won the game, right? So it's one thing
Yeah.
if they were going down 3-1, going back to Edmonton, Darnell sitting there on the plane like it's my fault, blah, 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 whatever. But I think it's so much easier to let that kind of roll off your back. You're able to sit in video session. You're able to watch out with
Yes.
their coach. You can see the mistake, you can learn from the mistake, but it doesn't necessarily have that same emotional impact that it would if you were to have lost the game. It's going to be a lot more relaxed. I definitely think the Kings, this was their opportunity. Like, you had a golden opportunity to put the Oilers back on their heels, and now you're headed back to Edmonton. So now the pressure, I think, shifts to the Kings. I know everyone's going to say, oh, the Oilers are the favorites, the Kings, no one expect them to do anything. There were a ton of people who picked the Kings to go to the Stanley Cup Finals, and the Kings are a very good hockey team. Like, that's the one thing that I was thinking. Because, again, when they were down 3-0 and I had lost all hope, what I was thinking, I'm like, this is one of those series where the Oilers, like, you can't really ask them to play better. Like, in hockey, we always talk about, PDO benders, shooting percentage benders, this and that. And it goes both ways, right? It wasn't going in for the Oilers. They were playing well. They were just not getting breaks. There was, some reffing stuff earlier on that a ton of people were talking about, myself included. And I wasn't necessarily upset with the way the Oilers were playing. It didn't, the way I felt didn't come anywhere close to the series they lost against Chicago or the series they lost against Winnipeg. Like, this, I felt good about the way the Oilers were playing. So, and they just weren't getting the breaks. And this is a game where the Kings had the ball in their court and the Oilers got the breaks, right? Ball completely shifts. But again, for myself, and I know I keep getting ahead of myself because as we're talking through, we only got to the 4-3 goal. So, the thing is, after that 4-3 goal, it's not like the Oilers went back to their second period ways and put 20 shots off on Korpisalo, right? They were outshot 11-1 at one point by the Kings in that third period. They were back on their heels. What were you thinking? Like, what was going through your mind?
I'm just thinking right now that, one, this game isn't over yet, and two, I'm thinking to myself, for this team, like, they have to. Well, one second. I'm thinking to myself, getting back in their heels. It was so important to change momentum because, again, you had what? After that goal, only 2 minutes left, and then you have the Kane goal, in which I look at things, I'm thinking to myself, Zach, wow, that is what he needs to get off the schneid, because we've mentioned it before, how Evander Kane had struggled badly in this series. Like, he had taken that penalty in game 2, which was just bizarre. But for Edmonton to put pressure back on LA again with a tying goal, I just thought to myself, here is where things will finally shift.
Yeah.
Even though we know the OT record, even though we know the OT record is awful in the McDavid Draisaitl era, getting that goal was very important just to keep some hope in this team season, really.
Yo, absolutely. That goal was so huge. I think Kane, I know he was injured in the game and they kept showing him wincing on the bench, but just, again, for yourself, when I know they all look at the stat sheet, they all sit through the video sessions. He knows he hasn't played as good as he's capable of. Hyman knows he hasn't played as good as he's capable of. Nuge knows he hasn't played as good as he's capable of. So for Kane to be the guy that ties it, that just adds to the swagger, that just adds that boost, your ego goes through the roof. You're feeling good. You're the team that came back. You go to overtime. And I cannot tell you, I was so damn nervous going to overtime. So damn nervous. What were they talking about? The Oilers record is 2-10 in the 97-29 era with McDavid and Draisaitl in overtime. But I liked what they pointed. I can't remember if they pointed out on this broadcast or on the radio, because sometimes as a homer I do like to listen to 630 Ched over the guys on there, because I like my homers. But Stauffer said, who was the guy on the ice for both of Edmonton's OT winners? Leon Draisaitl. Got the assist to Desharnais, got the assist to Connor McDavid. And again, I don't know, you didn't get the assist. Evan, the number one stallion Bouchard, got the assist on Hyman's OT winner. But man, I jumped off my couch. The fact the Oilers came back, they won in overtime. The Kings, both their overtime wins came on a power play. The Oilers got a power play in overtime off a
Yes,
nasty
they did.
Yeah, off a nasty hit. When they got what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Tell us. Take us through.
I was thinking some. First off, oh my gosh, a power play in overtime. I think they said, wow, they
Mhm.
called it.
Mhm.
It was blatant though. It was shot to Bouchard, who can be right in the numbers. You have to call 10 out of 10. You call that, no matter if it's LA or Edmonton. It was blatant. You have to call that penalty. Hit from behind in the numbers into the boards. Bouchard goes down. Like, you can't miss that call. And right there and then I'm thinking, there it is. That's game over. That was my thought. That's how this game in on that power play.
I was so nervous. In my head, I'm like, okay, if you don't convert on this, and I know LA had gotten power plays in the prior two overtimes, I'm like, they're either going to call a ticky-tack call on you to even it up. And we saw that early on, and I went thinking we kind of skipped over that. I just want to touch on real quick before we get back to it. That call to get the Oilers on that second power play where Draisaitl did score to tie the game, that Kevin Fiala trip, which a lot of Kings fans are going to say, oh, it was a phantom trip. And I agree. Was that like, that's a 50-50 thing. If they don't call it, I'm not screaming off. I'm not jumping off, oh, you missed a penalty, you idiots. Like, that's not that type of play. You're a little frustrated, but you move on. But they call that. And the thing where I think Oilers fans are happy about is that's the type of call that LA had been getting, the last 3 games. They have gotten 8 more of those calls than Edmonton. So Edmonton needed 1. Edmonton finally got 1, and they made it count. So I agree with Kings fans. Yeah, that wasn't not a great thing. Again, don't put yourself in that situation. Just like we said about every Oilers penalty, don't have your stick in Draisaitl's feet, and they won't. If you don't fall, and they won't call the penalty. But Fiala did. The Oilers scored, and they end up going on to win the game in overtime. They don't score on the power play. I'm, like, devastated. I'm like, that was the opportunity. You had it. You guys fucking blew it. That was it, you bunch of losers. Fire Holland, trade Desharnais, send CC to Guantanamo. Like, get him out of here. I was mad. I was mad, man. I was texting you. I was like, I hope Vincent Desharnais knows Russian. Like, you know what I mean? I was so frustrated. And Zach Hyman when he needed to make his presence known, again, the theme of this game, not only do you have that fight back, that come from behind mentality, but it's the people you needed most step up. Not 97, not 29, and obviously they did their part, but Kane and Hyman. Those 2 guys. If you are going to do any damage in the playoffs, they need to be good for you, right?
Absolutely. And what a shot from Hyman to beat Korpisalo. Goes high, beats him. And sends Crypto into dead silence. Like, that is the kind of goal you like seeing Zach Hyman score. He's capable of doing that. And again, right, Zach, you get the scoring from guys outside of McDavid, outside of Draisaitl. A huge game. And hopefully now in Game 5, you get more of those guys like Hyman and like King stepping up with the series going back to Rogers Place now come Tuesday night.
Absolutely. I just want to say we got 110 people watching. We only got 57 likes. So one more time, our like goal is 154. So when Avry and myself check back tomorrow, go hit that like button. Because yeah, we obviously really appreciate it. We hope this is a much longer ride. I hope it doesn't end. Again, I want to talk about the Kings for a little bit here, and then we can kind of move on to talk about what's coming up in the rest of the series. One guy on the LA Kings who, in the regular season when we were playing the Kings, like, I knew he was always there. I was aware of his presence. He was always around, but he never really, like, there's players when they're on the ice that you fear that they're going to hurt you. And this series, Quinton Byfield, to me, as an Oilers fan, is one guy who I just feel has, like, elevated his game. He's taken that next step, I feel like, and he's someone who I feel like every time he's on the ice, he is there's a chance that his presence will hurt the Oilers. He's been outstanding, at least my thoughts. Is there anyone on the Kings who you just want to highlight that's been really good?
No, I think, Quinton Byfield, I've been a fan of his since junior hockey. I've been a big fan of his story in his game, but I agree. Quinton Byfield is the kind of guy, like, this could be potentially his breakout series to show what he's done. I know he did a lot of work in the AHL for Ontario, for the Ontario Reign, but seeing him now step up and have a great series, it's fun to watch. And again, Adrian Kempe, we saw Adrian Kempe, we knew he could do last year in 2022.
Dangerous.
And again, he's been a thorn in the side of Edmonton, chipping in timely goals once again. So Kempe's been a big factor again. Like, I knew he would be again. I knew he would be again in this series come 2023.
He reminds me of, like, Kyle Connor when we played the Jets. It just seems like they're always sniping it on the Oilers. Like, Kempe's been so dangerous, and the Oilers have been lucky to hold him in check over those, like, at least tonight. Just beyond the Kings, like, again, Drew Doughty is a lot better than I anticipated. Korpisalo has been fantastic, but I think the main thing, and I know I highlighted Byfield, but again, I said this earlier in the show, that third line for LA with Fiala, Velarde and Iafallo is outstanding. And I said before the show that when I thought the Oilers were running 97-29, the top two centers, that their work was going to be cut out for Bukestad and McLeod. And that's the thing. Have I ever impressed with the play of the Oilers' bottom six? Like, what are your thoughts on the bottom six?
It is night and day compared to 2022. It is night and day, Zach. I feel more comfortable in seeing the play of Fogle, the play of Bukestad, the play of McLeod. This is a much more the play of Derek Ryan. This bottom six is so much more competent than the play last year. It is a strong team that finds a way to chip in, be a strong defensive play, beat a goal here and there. Like this is a proper bottom six for a deep playoff run.
Absolutely, dude. Fogle, the way he's skating right now, I've never seen him skate like this. His edge work in the offensive zone, something you've seen where he's be able to kind of pivot between sticks. But during the Stars and Wild game, they highlighted the way Kaprizov kind of cut between two players on his edge work. And obviously, Warren Fogle is not 1/8 of Kirill Kaprizov. But that made me think of Fogle, and I'm watching him play, and obviously his hands are one of those things where it's like, roll the dice. Will Fogle stick handle through six guys, or will he just make himself lose it and trip over his own feet, right? You never know what you're going to get with Warren Fogle, and the effort he's putting in the offensive zone, the way they're cycling pucks, and then when they do lose it, the back checking, like you pointed out, is outstanding. And and I know if this happens to a few Oilers fans, when you just see that 7 and you see him skating back, you're like, wow, Connor's really on his horse right now. And then you see the 3 and you're like, what the hell? Let's go. Like, it's so inspiring to watch those guys. You have Bukestad coming out winning key draws. His length, his penalty killing ability has been a crucial benefit to the Oilers this playoffs. Derek Ryan, I've never felt this dangerous when Derek Ryan's this. I've never thought to myself watching those bottom six, Man, they should put Fogle with Draisaitl. They should put Ryan with McDavid. Like, they are playing phenomenal, and they are tilting the ice when they are on in the Oilers' favor. It's really something to watch, because the LA Kings are notorious for being one of the teams with the most depth in the NHL. Like, that's where their bread is made. That's where they butter their bread. That's what they do. They are deep. They're strong defensively, and the Oilers. It hasn't been pretty, but we're going back to Edmonton tied 2-2. Is there any other thoughts on the game itself you had?
I would just say, like I mentioned, I'll reiterate it again there. This was the game that might have just saved your season. Like I mentioned too, the game 2 winning goal from Klim Kostin saved your season. Again, the response in the third period by the Oilers, that again could be the turning point for the season here. And again, overtime. Like, I just love how they didn't let the fact that they didn't score the power play get them down, because that could easily deflate a team. And in which you're overtime, you finally get a power play.
Absolutely.
And the power play is the best in NHL history.
Absolutely.
NHL history. And you don't score. That could have deflated this team. It didn't. They come back stronger again. They get a chance, and Hyman scores. Like, that is how elite teams do. Don't get deflated. Don't get too down. And they find a way to get a big win on the road. It was massive.
Massive. And you know what was so massive? And I didn't mention this before, but when you said turning point sticks out in my head, do you know what I'm going to say? Do you know what I'm thinking of right now? The Oilers are losing 4-3 about halfway through the third period. Victor Arvidsson gets a breakaway. And he goes and he makes a move that we've seen go in on Campbell time and time again. During the regular season, it seemed like Jack Campbell, I don't know if he made one breakaway stop. And if he did, it was someone just shot at his chest protector. It was every single time like clockwork. You go backhand, forehand on Campbell, it was in the net, guaranteed. And Jack Campbell, when it matters most, came up as clutch as you possibly can with a massive breakaway save to prevent the LA Kings from going up 5-3 in the third, kept the Oilers in it, and that's where it turned around. That's where the shot discrepancy started to fade. That's where the Oilers started taking it to the Kings, and then you have Kane, and then you have Hyman. Absolutely outstanding effort. The mental toughness they showed is phenomenal. I want to look at the stats, but I'm still absolutely buzzing. No clue how I'm going to go to sleep tomorrow. Evan Bouchard played 28 minutes tonight. He played the most out of any defenseman on the team by almost 4 minutes. Oh, yeah, outstanding, hey? What a player that guy is.
No, that was amazing. Oh, and a good point here from Frankie in the chat here, how Matt Roy went down in the third period and went down hard to the boards with his bare head, and the concussion spot didn't come out of the game. Like, what are we doing here? Like, that to me is bizarre.
Well, that play reminded me a little bit of the Morgan Riley Braden Point collision kind of in Tampa. Mm-hmm. It looked like a battle that went wrong. If you think it was anything else, you're nuts. That's just like I was mad about the calls. Kings fans who are mad about the calls. Throw them in the dumpster because that's not what happened. Essentially, I don't know. I tweeted out myself. I was perplexed because you could see he was bleeding from his head. And later on, kind of in that penalty that Kempe took in overtime, like Bouchard was bleeding or something was wrong with him, and they made him go to the bench. Do you know what that was about? I'm still confused.
Honestly, I really don't know. Like, I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I haven't heard anything from Jared League yet. But those two situations I was baffled by both, really, Zach. It didn't make sense to me.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And yeah, let's just say one more time. We got 112 people watching. We got 65 likes. Our goal is still 154. So you guys want to hit that like button. I see Cheshire Cat Squirrel Master, quite the name you've got there, in chat, does disagree with me, and she thinks that Evander Kane did it on purpose. I don't. Travis Farquhar says wasn't a penalty at all. Nobody was looking for a call there. There were definitely Kings fans who were looking for a call there. I'm sure every 5 seconds the arena goes, "Ref, you suck. Ref, you suck." Like, I'm not sure what game you're watching, but all right. Frank's goal. Bouchard had an old cut from last game. Yeah, and that started bleeding. I just was confused as to why they made him start on the bench, and I think that was partially why they couldn't figure out the power play, because they I don't even know if they won the draw, but Darnell Nurse, obviously his job was just get to the bench so Bouchard could get on the ice.
Right.
But then you mess up the breakout twice because you're out of sync, and you have Bouchard getting on and Nurse getting off, and that killed like 40 seconds off the power play. And they still ended up getting dangerous looks at the end. They just couldn't capitalize, and McDavid missed the net, and I thought that was it. I'm like, we're going to look back to that McDavid net missing in overtime, and that's going to be it. But I am so happy for Zach Hyman. Like, if there's anyone there's a difference between people picking, the Avery overtime challenge. I picked Kempe and McDavid, right? I picked Draisaitl and Iafallo to score. But if there is one player out of these entire two rosters that you think deserves to score just because of how good of a guy he is, it's Zach Hyman. Like, man, how jacked were you to see? It was Zach Hyman who scored. I was ecstatic. Oh my god, I can't even talk. I can't even form words. Unbelievable.
Well, first of all, in the Game Over Edmonton group chat, I called Zach Hyman scoring the OT winner.
You did.
I called Zach Hyman scoring.
Yeah.
So when he scored, no, I was a big fist pump and a cheer, because like that's a guy who had to figure it out, had to get something going right for him, and a goal that even the series up and send things back to Edmonton. How could you not feel good for the guy?
Absolutely. And just to point that to Travis's chat, the reffing was actually pretty good for a change. I agree. There was a penalty that, and this is where I think you could see Zach Hyman's frustration, because I can't remember if it was late in the second or early in the third. Zach Hyman took a very boneheaded slashing call on Mikey Anderson.
Yes.
That was that lack of discipline you saw earlier in the season kind of coming out. And now they only got one dumb stick infraction and penalty. That was his frustration. I think now that he scored this goal, I don't think you're going to see that same frustration level. You get back to that calmness, right? You're getting back to Edmonton. You're regrouping. Ball's in your court. Now, the pressure's on for you to win at home, because if you win at home, we're in essentially an identical situation as we were last year. Just the wins in game 2 or 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 are swapped. So yeah. Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, this is the question that I've kind of been avoiding, because I know this is going to be a hot topic on Twitter and over the next couple days until, I believe, Tuesday is the next game.
Tuesday, yes.
Yeah. So until Tuesday, we're going to be talking about this. Okay. Who is your starting goaltender in Game 5 of the Stanley Cup playoffs?
Oh, my gosh. I know he played well. I know he helped save them, but the team, Jay, and management still have all the faith in Stuart Skinner. So I'm going to stick with Stuart to start Game 5.
I agree with you. I think I cannot credit Campbell more for the way he played. I am so impressed. My level of comfortability has gone up immensely, because I think early on you could see how Campbell wasn't comfortable. There were a couple of times where I was shocked that the Kings didn't put the puck in the net. There were some rebounds Campbell let out. He was scrambling, but he did it. He made the saves. Going into Game 5, a full game, man, putting in Campbell, that would be a ballsy move. it could pay off dividends because we've seen Campbell get hot for stretches. We saw it earlier
Mm-hmm.
this year, and we've seen it with the Leafs, and it just that's kind of a theme throughout his career. But
Yeah.
it could also bite you, right? Like it's such a 50, it's a flip of the coin. For me, I think because the coaching staff put that faith in Stuart Skinner down the stretch, you give Stu an opportunity to bounce back. You don't want him sitting on that because he was your starting goalie coming in. You give him that opportunity to bounce back. I think he earned the right, even though, again, I still don't believe that they were all Stu's fault. But I think it'll be a very, 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 very interesting thing. Now, I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think you can justify it either way. I think there like you could go Campbell, and I think like you might have some Oilers fans, like myself included, being nervous with that decision. But you have that understanding of why, at least, right? It doesn't seem like it's out of nowhere. And I think Jay is a tough decision ahead of him, but man, what a game changer, hey Jack! I'm so impressed with him.
No, Jack stepped up when called upon. What more can you ask for? He kept him in this game. He made big saves to preserve this tie. But like we mentioned with Stuart Skinner, you know what you mentioned, Stu. You don't want Stuart to sit on things. One thing I like about Stuart, talking to him, being around the room, being around him. One thing Stuart does, he doesn't get down himself too much. He's a very much, and for a rookie, he has the mentality. You know what? It's one game. It's behind me now. Focus on the future. Even with losses, he's never gotten down too low after a game, which I like the mentality of him for a rookie. I love the mentality of Stuart.
Absolutely. I want to say everyone's saying what's up to Salamander17 in chat. Fourth Quarter Sports has joined us now. Curtis Gleason. I love Jack, but I think you have to go with Stu. That's where I'm leaning. I agree. I think it's got to be Stu, but I think it is not going to be. You could go either way, and I think the penalties were a lot better. I think Oilers fans are gonna be a lot happier. I know they did win the penalty battle, but it was just 2-3, right? You didn't have to spend an entire period killing penalties like you did in games prior.
Exactly.
So yeah, it's gonna be a really interesting one there. I'm so excited for Game 5. I cannot wait. It's outstanding. What a game, Avery. I want to say, as we wrap this up, we've gone for almost 50 minutes. I know everyone here's got to go to sleep. Thank God the game started at 7 and not 8 tonight, because, man, you just...
Those 8 o'clock games, they can be tough. I mean, they're even tougher on the weekdays. I mean, we saw the series started with the 8 p.m. game on a Monday night.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you, if the Oilers get another OT winner, you bet I will be wearing whoever's jersey. Yeah, whoever scores, I will wear their jersey. I do not care. I will... You'll catch me at Jersey City buying a Nick Bugstad jersey, between the broadcast and the game. So, I want to say, any last thoughts from yourself here before we wrap it up, or?
I will just say, now with this series going back to Edmonton, the momentum on the other side now, I think Game 5, you have to have another of a strong start, and it is so important for this team now to get the first goal at home. That's going to be a big key. Be on LA. Don't sit back. We saw, again, these games in LA. You can't sit back too much. Take the game to the Kings. Push on Korpisalo. Get that first goal. Stay aggressive out of the gates, I feel, for Game 5. You have to.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. We've seen it multiple times in the series. When the Oilers are pushing, the Kings do not have an answer. As good as they are defensively, the Oilers have just, all-time skill. There's nothing you could do. There's no matchup you can get. I don't care if you have 12 Philip Deneaus, if Draisaitl's playing the way Draisaitl's capable of, the Oilers are going to come out the better team because, frankly, and I know the Kings are great. This is easily a Western Conference Finals matchup. Like, both these teams are outstanding.
Totally.
Both these teams are outstanding, but guys like Draisaitl and McDavid, they just don't have the skill to match that in the Los Angeles Kings. But anyways, guys, I want to appreciate, obviously, Robert and Dennis, all the way from Japan joining the chat. So it's what's up. It's good to talk to you, even though it's just for a little bit. I will be back. I believe Kaya May from Game Over Vancouver will be joining me. Andrew Berkshire from Game Over Montreal will be joining me. So that'll be phenomenal. Let's hope and pray and sacrifice as many goats as you need that when we get back here on Tuesday, the Edmonton Oilers will be up 3-2, headed back to LA to cut the throats and sacrifice the Kings in Game 6. Let's go. What a great chat. Hit that like button. Thanks for watching. That'll be all from us. Have a good night and play La Bamba, baby.
Let a bomb, baby. Peace.